So today on Tac N Track, we're going to talk about a group of guns that is wholly outdated, near useless, and absolutely no fun to shoot. The revolver.
So we've got before us today revolvers. I absolutely love revolvers. They are my favorite firearm. And you've got a lot of options with revolvers too. Brad thinks that they're outdated and no fun at all. I can't imagine having more fun with a gun. Now we've got several different styles. You've got single action, where you have to pull the hammer back in order to pull the trigger. Or you've got double action, where pulling the trigger back is going to fire the weapon. You also have the option to pull it back yourself before you pull the trigger, and that's going to take your trigger pull from somewhere around 8 pounds to 2.5 or 3 pounds. So it's going to be a lot smoother firing when you pull it back, where these single actions are going to be nice and smooth from the rear position and typically have a very light trigger. You also have pieces of garbage like this, which is a 7-shot. What is this called?
That is a Nagant 1897. And while the quality may be questionable, there's one thing that they are extremely good at, is being a suppressed revolver.
Yeah, so as you pull the hammer back on this one, the cylinder actually moves forward so that it closes in where you can suppress this weapon. But without pulling the hammer back yourself, it's about a 28-pound draw. So very hard to shoot accurately without pulling the hammer back first. Now I've got a couple of different revolvers here. These two are chambered in .357. This is the Ruger New Vaquero, which is my favorite gun that I own, where this is the Uberti Cattleman 2. This one's also .357, same inch barrel. I think these were 5.5. Now you will notice quality-wise, this is the lower quality weapon. These were about $180 pre-pandemic. Now you're going to pay about $450 for one with the color case hardened receiver. And these have 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3, where the Vaquero has 2 clicks, 1, 2. Now on this weapon, if you don't get that 3rd click down, so if you're someone who likes to fan a revolver like I am, this is not the weapon for you, because you're only going to get your 2 clicks before, and you're not going to get that 3rd click, where this one's going to hit nearly every time. You're also going to notice this has a flat hammer, where this gun has an exposed firing pin, which I don't like. I don't think that's going to be as reliable, but this was beautiful, so I wanted to pick this one up. I also have 2 Chiappa 22s. These are fantastic guns, and the reason for that is they were cheap. They were about $120 to $150 a piece. I bought one for $120 and one for $150 as the pandemic started and guns started getting outrageous. These are incredibly fun weapons. These are both 6 shots. You have to pull the hammer back on these in order to roll the cylinder so that you can load and unload. Where on a quality one like the Vaquero, all you have to do is open the loading gate. Now I like this because there's no way this weapon's going to go off as you're fiddling with it. Whereas if the hammer's back on either the Chiappa or the Uberti, you do run a little bit of risk with the hammer back, and you also have to pull it all the way down in order to put it back into place. The less times that you have to do that, the safer this weapon's going to be. So that's why I like the Vaquero.
There we go.
Now, most cowboys are going to run .45 long Colt. I don't, because that's an expensive round that can be hard to find. And when you've got .357 Magnum, what more do you need? Now, if you have .357 Magnum, you can interchange that with .38 Special, which is a little bit cheaper to run and great for target practice. Your targets aren't that far away, so accuracy is not terribly important. Now you've also got this Nagant bullet here that's recessed inside of the shell, and that's one of the reasons that that weapon can be suppressed.
So one of the most important things when we talk about firearms is for every pro, there's always going to be a con. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the cons with these. When you have a double action and you shoot it as a double action, the trigger pull on these is, even in something like this, pretty extreme. Because you're having to actually manually pull this trigger back as you pull the trigger. That has a tendency for guys to throw shots with these guns, because as they pull them, they have a tendency to jerk the trigger. So accuracy is a little bit of an issue there unless you're shooting it as a single action with the hammer to the back. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about with revolvers, you have gas escaping right here. So what you never want to do is get your finger ahead of the cylinder. It's not going to be a pleasant day for you. The only exception to the gas escape, of course, is the nagant that we already talked about. So you lose a little bit of powder through here, so gotta keep your hand clear, as well as losing a little bit of velocity off the round. The other thing to keep in mind with the revolver, the capacity is limited, and reloads, I know they make speed reloaders, but reloads are slow and painful with these. It's not something that you really want to try and do under pressure, in a hurry. It's just not the right weapon for that.
And speed loaders are only going to work for double action. You cannot speed load a single action unless you are the speed loader. They don't make a rig for that because you have to do it individually after you open the loading gate, and in this case pull the hammer halfway back, and then you have to eject the shell with that lever, and then pop in your new shell, rotate the cylinder, and move on to the next one. You're not going to do that quickly in a firefight. That's why it's good to have 5 or 6 revolvers on you at any time.
Another thing to talk about with these is the ammunition. It is a little bit harder to find than, say, 9mm 45 ACP, and typically runs at a little bit of a higher price point, especially for the hotter rounds like the 357, because it's outdated.
Well, it'll still take down a bear. It'll take down a small moose. You can take out a lot of heavy game with that target. And if you have to use this weapon for self-defense, you're going to be glad you went with the 357 Magnum.
So we ran a few tests on single action, double action versus a modern handgun. The modern handgun that we used for this was a Springfield XD9. These are fairly inexpensive, standard kind of run-of-the-mill plastic wonder guns that are out there on the market.
And how many round capacity do those have?
These have a 16-round capacity magazine as standard, but of course, like any modern semi-automatic firearm, we can get bigger capacity magazines for these.
Sure, but you're running what, 9mm? We'll just put that there for comparison. Now, I'll admit I did have to have 2 guns to get even close to the capacity, but the trick with a dueling tree is to let someone else run out of ammunition and then take your time on your targets, which is a bit unfair, but a trick that worked very well.
Also, part of the really good trick that Gil used here is let me shoot some of the targets on his side for him with my higher capacity modern plastic gun.
No, and plastic really is a great material for vacuums and other things like that. But if you're going to be shooting, you want steel.
My plastic doesn't rust.
Okay, this one's a little bit rusty.
1, go. There we go. I could not get that top paddle to go over. Never shot this one before.
Hey, let me help. Hey, let me help.
There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116,
See, look. The revolver is better.
So we did another test of the double action. This is a Taurus Brazil 357 versus Brad's XD. And we found that this came up a little bit short. Not only do I find this gun to be inaccurate, it is after all kind of a cheaper double action weapon. If you shoot it like single action, you can get a little bit more accuracy out of it. But at the end of the day, your capacity kills it if you've just got one.
Plastic wonder guns, guys. They're cheap, they're reliable, they have serious capacity, and they are absolutely great for pretty much anything.
Now, I'll take one of these single actions any day over one of those, unless I'm carrying. If I'm concealed carrying, probably going to go with one of those. They're easier to hide. This is going to stick way out of your back, out of your side. No matter where you put it, you're going to know that this is there, where these are much more concealable.
And you don't look like a cowboy lost in a big city. Pretty much another day at work for Gil.
2, 1.
So one of the important things for shooters is what kind of bang for your buck do you get? So we put this 44 mag Desert Eagle to the test up against the Choppas.
Now, these Choppas take 22 long rifle, and you can shoot 22 long rifle all day long for very cheap. $10 probably will get you a whole day. You buy them in 525 round boxes. They're always going to shoot. You rarely have a misfire with 22 unless you have a firing pin issue. And they're rimfire anyway, so they don't have a pin.
So the Desert Eagle here, you actually can't fill an entire magazine for $10. And we're not even going to talk about the price point difference between these two. Yeah. We don't even want to enter that conversation. So we went to the range, decided to shoot off which was more fun between a Desert Eagle and 44 mag up against the Choppas.
And what would you pick, having done both?
Well, I mean, I own the Desert Eagle,
right,
and I don't own the Choppas, so I have to admit the Choppa would be my choice if I wanted to have fun on a budget. These things are a total blast to shoot and certainly make shooting affordable, where this guy's not affordable.
And you're not going to take down a bear with them, but for target practice, these are great examples. And the Chiappa is my pick over the Ruger Wrangler, because the Ruger Wrangler is a 3/4 frame, where these are full frame weapons. You'll notice that the barrel is shorter, but otherwise the pistol feels the same. So these are great to practice your actions with before you go spend some money shooting .357.
What's your doing tree? Suck it in, Bradley.
Already was. We're going to pretend like that didn't just happen.
So to answer the question, should you buy a revolver? Well, if you like having fun, having a beautiful weapon that's going to maintain its value and something that you can show off to your friends, yeah, you absolutely should. They're fantastic. They're going to hit every time. I can't see a reason why you wouldn't.
You're not going to catch me with one anytime soon, except for I might very seriously buy one of these because they are an absolute blast and they're dirt cheap.
And if you think that you have a better suggestion for a single action revolver, maybe in 22, 45 long Colt, 357, let me know what you think. I'd love to have another one. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, but you can call it 3, 2, 1, go.
So Gil thinks that his choppas are easier to take down than an AK. So we're about to have a speed test.
You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Ooh, that was close.